We've got some exciting stuff lying ahead of us. I love being at Crossfire. This is just the best place to be. And I believe that God is going to speak powerfully to us as we look at his word. Because I want to talk a bit about success. Because I know that you love it when you're being successful. I love it when I feel like I'm being successful. And you just had that experience where things are going great and you're cruising in top gear and you're acing your studies and you're slamming the baskets and you're kicking the goals, you're attracting the girls, and everyone sort of looks at you and says, you know, I want to be like that person. And you're aware that you're doing real well. And all of us want to feel like that. You want to know that what you're doing is worthwhile and that you're doing it well. But you've probably worked out in life that there's like little rules that people have made up, and you've got to, if you want to be successful, you've got to play by the rules. Now, these are not rules that are written down anywhere. It's just stuff that everybody knows. And you know if you're going to be a success, you've not only got to understand the rules, you've got to play by the rules. Do you remember when you were little kids and you're innocently walking down the footpath with some friends and you suddenly discover that someone has made up a rule that you're not allowed to step on the cracks? Now, I don't know where this rule came from. I've never seen it written down in any civil code, but for a while there, you had to sort of walk, you know, just a little bit like this, because stepping on the cracks was very, very bad. That's just one of those rules you've got to deal with. And then, of course, you go to school and you're going to have your birthday. And you think, this is very cool. I'm having my birthday at school. And you discover that someone made up a rule that you need to be punched once for every year of your life by everybody. And you're thinking, who made that one up? No. Ushers, a lady in the back row having problems. But does that make sense? And then you go to high school and you get to catch the school bus, and you didn't realise that the back seat was reserved for the really cool kids, and you just wandered up there and you sat down and you suddenly realised you weren't cool enough to be in the back seat and you got booted out. All these little rules just exist, and if you're going to be successful, you've got to understand the rules. Now, fellas, wouldn't it be good if someone explained to you the rules of understanding women so that you could be a success in your relationships with the women folk? Now, because fellas, if you don't understand the rules, you're not going to get anywhere with the ladies. Now, a document has fallen into my hands. Now, girls, you can just tune out for a moment. But fellas, a document has fallen into my hands. The 5 rules of understanding women. Now, my suspicion is they may not be true, but tell me what you think. Rule number 1, women never have anything to wear. You might see a wardrobe full of hundreds of different outfits, but men, you don't understand. She has nothing to wear. Understand it. Number 2, a man can take 5 minutes to get ready for the big date, but women need a little longer. Guys, learn to be patient. Number 3, all women believe that they are overweight, but you must never agree with them. Never. Number 4, women do not want an honest answer to the question, how do I look? They are not after your honesty at that stage, fellas. Hold it back. And of course, the last one, you've got to understand, it's okay for girls to go to the toilet in pairs or in small groups. It's okay. It's kind of a social excursion. Guys must never do this. Like if I wanted to just nick off and use the gents now, and I think, oh, look, I just need to go to the toilet. Daniel, would you like to come with me? It doesn't work. Got to understand, girls go to the toilet for the same reason they go shopping. It's a social experience. It's fun. Men go to the toilet for the same reason they go shopping. Absolute necessity. Right? Now, if you understand the rules, then you can have success. By the way, girls, I've discovered there's some rules for understanding blokes. Here we go. Listen carefully, take notes. You've got notepads? Write these down. Number one, guys never need help. They might be completely lost, they might be in a strange part of town, they might have no idea how to get to their destination, but they never need help. You need to understand that reaching for a street directory, or heaven forbid, actually stopping and asking someone for directions, would be a denial of their basic masculinity. And girls, they certainly don't need help from you. Even if you are right, which you probably are. Work out, what do you really want? Do you want to get to your destination, or do you want to keep your man? Just pick one. Rule number 2 for understanding men, that for them being faster, better, stronger, cleverer really matters to them. Don't ever suggest you know a better way of doing something. And don't ever beat them like a Trivial Pursuit or arm wrestling or anything. Their fragile masculinity cannot cope with it. Rule number 3, understanding men. Men have selective sight and selective hearing. Men can spot a new model car half a kilometre away. They can spot a new fast food outlet going up. But don't expect them to notice you've had a new haircut or that you're wearing a new outfit. When they're watching the footy on TV, they will listen intently to every word that the commentator is saying, but they may not remember anything personal or precious you have shared with them. Girls, if you ever hear the phrase, "yes, dear," you know they haven't heard one word that you have said. Rule number 4 about guys. Strong emotions are reserved for sport, car, and gadgets. Apart from those 3 items, there is no discernible difference between your man when he is angry, your man when he is sad, your man when he is happy. One mood fits all. Last rule for understanding men: when a man does a minor chore around the house, like emptying the dishwasher, he will act like he's just cleaned the whole house and deserves a few hours off as a reward. Just smile and sigh. Now, wouldn't it be good if somehow in your relationships with the opposite sex, wouldn't it be good if someone could explain every rule so that you could have great success in your relationships? I mean, that would be great. In fact, wouldn't it be good if someone could explain every rule about your life so that you knew what lay ahead, so that you could have success in all the things you do with life? You see, sometimes it happens that someone will give you all the advanced knowledge that you need. Let's imagine you're in the Australian Army. Let's imagine that you're in East Timor or somewhere, and you're going to liberate a village which is being held by some terrorists. And before your troop goes down there, your commanding officer says, "This is the game plan. This is how we're going to have victory. This is what I want you to stick to. And if everyone does their job, we will have victory." You see, sometimes you get advance warning of how life's going to be. Or in your sporting team, it's the grand final, and your coach comes to the sideline with you and says, "Let's go through the game plan. This is the weaknesses of the other team. This is how we're going to get over them. This is how I want you to play. This is how you'll have success." But wouldn't it be great in your Christian life? Wouldn't it be great if Jesus sort of came and sat down next to you and said, "Here's the game plan for your life. Here's what's lying ahead. Here's what I want you to do. Here are the rules you've got to keep, and here's how you can be successful as my disciple." I mean, wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic? Have Jesus sitting down next to you to explain how you can be successful. That is what we're going to do over this term at Crossfire. We're going to look at 3 chapters in the Bible where Jesus calls his disciples aside and gives them a blueprint for being genuine disciples. He shows them how to play the game. He shows them how to have success. And he shows us how to be genuine in everything we do with him. Because Jesus doesn't want half-hearted disciples. Jesus doesn't want, one day when I feel like it disciples. Jesus doesn't want maybe tomorrow disciples. Jesus doesn't want half-hearted, wishy-washy, namby-pamby, mealy-mouthed, lazy dog, go low, wake up at midnight, never say a word about your faith. Don't give us stuffed disciples who are totally indistinguishable from everybody else on the planet. That's not what he's after. Jesus is calling you to be different. Jesus is calling you to have a future that is different. Jesus is calling you to have a life that is different. Jesus is calling you to have a ministry that is different. That's what he wants. Because he wants you to be genuine. He wants you to have a life that's genuine. He's calling you to have a future that's genuine. He's calling you to have a ministry that's genuine. He's calling on you to have an impact on this world that is genuine. And he's placed you here on planet Earth so that you can be a genuine disciple for him. And over the coming weeks, we're going to look at stuff like how to have genuine impact on the world. How do you have genuine obedience? How do we have genuine worship? What about genuine trust? How do we have genuine commitment? But tonight, I want you to imagine Jesus is sitting down next to you and he's going to instruct you, along with every other disciple, how to have genuine success. You're going to need a Bible. We have helpfully placed some in the seats, but I tell you what, for next week, why don't you bring your own, and you can make notes in your own, but find a Bible in the seats, Matthew chapter 5. We're going to hit the Sermon on the Mount. While you're looking for it, let me set the scene. Matthew chapter 5. Jesus has just called his very first disciples. He's gathered them together because he wants to talk to them. They've seen him healing the sick. They've seen him casting out demons. Large crowds are being attracted. But Jesus wants to call his troops aside. Wants to call them aside like a footy coach would call his team aside. The crowd sort of listening in the background. These are instructions for the troops. And if you want to be a disciple of Jesus, these are his instructions for you. This is how to be a success in everything that he has for you. There's a scene, Matthew chapter 5, verse 1. It simply says, when he saw the crowds, Jesus went up on a mountainside, sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. That's what he's going to do with you now. He's going to teach you how to be a genuine disciple. He's going to teach you how to have genuine success. He's going to teach you how you can become the person that he wants you to be. Now, it's interesting, if you just have a look down in Matthew 5, you'll just notice like every verse starts with the same word. It's the word blessed. Blessed is this person, blessed is that person. Now, I don't know about you, it's not a word we use very much. Maybe when someone sneezes, you say, bless you. It's just, but I tell you what the word means. It means congratulations. It means if you're doing this, you are to be envied above everybody else. Blessed means God is showering you with gifts and making you the most enviable person on the planet. Blessed means congratulations. Blessed means you're the person that everybody should be like. And so as Jesus goes through all these sentences that start with the word blessed, and there's eight sentences he's going to get out, it's saying if you want to be successful, this is the sort of person that you should be. Now, when you think about success, if we went to your school and just took a quick survey, what words come into people's mind when they think about success? You get probably words like someone who's rich, someone who's strong, someone who's happy, someone who's powerful, someone who's got the best of food, lots of friends, climb to the top of the tree, personality plus. I think tonight Jesus is saying your view of success might not be big enough. He could be saying to us, your view of success is way too small. And I believe in what he's about to teach us, Jesus wants to change our view of success forever. Now, can I give you a working definition just before we look at it of what success is? Here's what I think success is. Success means feeling good because you're achieving something good. Like that? Feeling good because you're achieving something good. Let me tell you what I mean by the two halves of that. If you're being successful, it should feel good. I'll tell you why I say that. I've known students at high school who are sort of Mr. or Miss Popular. They've got like, they're talented and everyone likes them and they're funny and they've always got lots of friends around them. And you would say they're successful. When I talk with them, sometimes I find they're very lonely. But people aren't interacting with them, people are interacting with their image. They look successful, but they're not feeling good about it. I've known businessmen who are at the top of their tree in their field, top in Australia at what they do, and everyone would say they're successful. And they come home from work and they feel like they're a failure. So if you're being successful at something, something about it has to feel right. It's no use achieving things and feeling lousy about it. That's the feeling good part. But I tell you why I put the achieving something good. Because if what you're achieving is not good, I don't think you're successful. Let's imagine we left out the achieving something good and you could just achieve anything you like. That is, someone who's successful is someone who achieves something. Someone who makes a plan, sets their goals, executes it to perfection and then sits back. If that's all success was, you would have to say the most successful person of this 21st century has probably been Osama bin Laden. That is exactly the reaction. Because if you leave aside whether what he achieved was good and just say who has achieved great things, you'd have to say Osama bin Laden. He hasn't been caught, has he? Are some of you thinking he's maybe never going to be caught? In 2001, on one morning, in the United States of America, the most powerful nation on this planet, in one morning, under his mastermind, 4 planes were hijacked. 2 crashed into the World Trade Centers, 1 into the Pentagon, 1 actually missed its mark, but it was heading for the White House. You'd have to say he pulled it off. 3,000 people died that morning. Probably more than that. But I wouldn't call that successful. Because there's nothing good. What he achieved wasn't a good thing at all. Osama bin Laden's not the sort of person you'd look at and say, I want to be like him. That's not success. If it wasn't a good thing you're achieving, the most successful person of the 20th century would be Adolf Hitler. He had a plan, he had a vision, he pulled it off. The world was changed. But look at what happened. The whole world ended up with war with each other. 6 million Jews were exterminated because he didn't like them. Did he achieve things? Yes, he did, but they weren't good things. So that makes sense. If you're really going to be successful, the thing you achieve has to be good. You see, I'd look at someone like Mother Teresa of Calcutta. You know, that little Catholic nun who went into poverty and worked in India and worked with orphans and worked with starving people and worked with people infected with AIDS and cared for them and died penniless. I think that's a picture of success. Because what she achieved was worth achieving. And I think you can take someone like Mother Teresa of Calcutta and say, I want to be like her. If you're going to be truly successful, not only do you need to feel good about it, but you need to know that what you've achieved was worth achieving. And Jesus is now going to give us 2 big pictures of the successful disciple. And here's the first picture. A disciple longs for what is right. And if you want to be a genuine disciple, this is the sort of person that Jesus wants you to be. 4 little pictures that show us why this is right. Have a look down in verse 3. Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. It's interesting, the first word that Jesus uses to describe a successful disciple is the word poor. Not poor in money, but poor in spirit. Someone who realizes that they are spiritually poor. Someone who knows that they need God's help. Do you remember the story that Jesus told about 2 blokes who decided to pray and they both ended up in the same church building at the same time? The first guy was a Pharisee. He was a teacher of the law. He was a big shot in the church. The other guy was a rotten criminal who'd never done anything good in his life and didn't even deserve to be in church. And the big shot preacher man comes out the front of church. The other guy, the criminal, just huddles down the back with his head bowed towards the floor. And the religious dude out the front prays like this in a loud voice. He says, "Oh Lord, I thank thee that you have made me such a great person. I thank thee that I am so generous and I can help so many people. And Lord, I thank you that I can be at church once a day and twice on Sundays. And Lord, I praise you that you've made me to be such a good person. And I especially praise you that you've made me better than that guy hiding down the back." That was his prayer. The guy down the back, who was a criminal who'd never done anything good in his life, he wasn't even brave enough to put his head up. He kept his head down, and this was his prayer. He said, "Lord, have mercy on me because I am a sinful person." Now, when Jesus told that story, his comment at the end was only one of those two blokes had done what was right that day. And it wasn't the big shot out the front. It was the person who knew they were spiritually poor. The person who knew that they needed God. Is that the cry of your heart? Where you say to God, "I know I really need you." Jesus says, if that's you, congratulations. The kingdom of heaven belongs to you. That's what a genuine disciple looks like. Little picture number 2. Those who mourn, verse 4. Blessed are those who mourn, they will be comforted. And he's not just talking about getting upset because something rotten has happened to you. He's saying, do you genuinely mourn when you look at the sin in the world? When you see people defying God, does that get to you? When you see underprivileged people being disadvantaged by those in power, does that upset you? When you see people suffering through no fault of their own, does that get to you? And he says, look at your own life. When you look at your own life and you see the sin that you do and where you fail, does that upset you? Oh, do you just think, hey, everybody sins, I'm better than most people, it doesn't matter? Or does it get to you? Do you mourn over the wrong things you see in your life? And Jesus says, does that describe you? Does sin in the world get to you? Does sin in your life get to you? He says, congratulations. That's the person I want. You will be comforted. The next little picture is in verse 5, where he says, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now, the word meek is one of those words that doesn't get much of a good run these days. It doesn't actually sound like a compliment. My goodness, you're looking meek this evening. It just doesn't sound, it sounds like an insult. Someone who's a little bit weak. Someone who's a little bit wishy-washy. Someone who's a few kangaroos short in the top paddock. And unfortunately, the word meek rhymes with the word weak. It rhymes with the word geek. Rhymes with the word freak. But you've got to understand, meekness does not equal weakness. Meekness is strength under control. I want you to imagine a big Mack semi-trailer. Big rig with one of those powerful engines that could just crush you into gravel-sized particles and spew you all over the road. A big rig. If it ran over your car would become like a squashed piece of metal. With an enormously powerful engine. But it's stopped at the traffic lights. And the engine is purring. It's a powerful engine, but it's being kept under control. That's what meek is. It's strength kept under control. And Jesus saying, I want my disciples to be strong, but I want them to keep it under control. And that's God's picture of a genuine disciple. Is that the cry of your heart? Where you say, I don't want to force my own way. Have you got that humility? Are you willing to give up anything so that you keep your strength under control. Well, Jesus says, if you're willing to give up anything, you will gain everything. Verse 5, blessed are the meek, they will inherit the earth. Does that describe you? Well, Jesus says, congratulations. That's the genuine disciple that I want. Last little picture under a disciple longing for what is right is in verse 6. Where Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they will be filled. Jesus is describing people who hunger and thirst to see this world run God's way. Not just people who are shrugging their shoulders and saying, oh, well, I hope it gets better. But people who are longing to see God's way done on this planet. When you look around your school, do you long for the day when your school will be run God's way? When you look at your family, do you long to see it be just like Jesus? When you look at your sporting team, you think, man, I'd love it if everybody on this team was becoming just like Jesus. Is that the cry of your heart, that you long to see things run God's way? Well, Jesus is saying, that's a genuine disciple. Where you're hungering and thirsting for righteousness. Now, note that Jesus doesn't say that he's looking for someone who will snack on righteousness. Right? Jesus doesn't want you just to snack on it. Some Christians sort of, they want to see things right, but they just want to have a little snack of righteousness. Just a little bit of righteousness, maybe on Friday night here at Crossfire, on Sunday at church, just enough to look good as a Christian, but nothing that will ever satisfy. No. Jesus wants you to hunger and to thirst for righteousness. He doesn't just want you to have a spiritual munchie at the righteousness snack shack. We just have a little snack to keep you going. No, he wants your whole life to be aching to see things done God's way. And I think sometimes as Christians, we're just happy to survive on spiritual junk food. A quick fix that'll just put us right. I'd like to order a McJesus meal. Certainly, sir. Would you like some prayers with that? That's not what Jesus is after. God's righteousness is not a little snack that you get your fix of when you come to youth group Friday night, when you show up at church on Sunday, when you go away in a camp. He wants a life that is hungering and thirsting to see God's word being done. Does that describe you? Are you hungering and thirsting to see God's righteousness unleashed in this world? Are you hungering and thirsting to see God's righteousness unleashed in your school? Are you hungering and thirsting to see God's righteousness unleashed in your relationships? Does that describe you? If it does, Jesus says, congratulations. You're the one that's blessed because you will be filled. You will be satisfied. The things that you're longing for will be accomplished. And Jesus says that is success. That's being a genuine disciple, because a genuine disciple will always long for what is right. But then he moves on to say that a genuine disciple will always stand for what is right. And he gives 4 more little pictures to show what he means. Look down in verse 7. He said, blessed are the merciful. They will be shown mercy. Merciful. You help someone who doesn't deserve it. That's merciful. You're not looking to pay someone back, even if they've done the wrong thing to you. And Jesus is saying, if you're that person, that's what he's after. Now, sometimes we only want to be merciful to the people who do deserve it. The nice people. But that's not what Jesus means here. Because that's not the way Jesus treated you. Jesus didn't wait for you to be nice before he showed you mercy. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And Jesus is saying, if you're my disciple, that's the sort of mercy that you're going to show to other people. Is that the cry of your heart? That you want to treat other people the same way Jesus has treated you? If that's you, Jesus says, congratulations. You are the blessed one. because you're the person that God loves to show mercy to. Picture number 6, blessed, in verse 8, blessed are the pure in heart. They will see God. This is somebody whose whole heart is absolutely dedicated to being in love with God. Not a heart that's divided where a little bit goes for God and the rest is, when no one else is watching, you do what you like. He wants you to have a pure heart. He's not after people who act Christian when they're around their Christian friends and then act incredibly pagan when they're around their pagan friends. He is after a genuine response where your heart is pure. He's saying, I want disciples who don't pretend. Now, does that describe you? Because if that describes you, if that's the cry of your heart, that you're saying, I'm not pretending to be Christian, well, congratulations, says Jesus. If you're not hiding from God, God will not hide from you. Verse 8, blessed are the pure in heart, they will see God. Picture number 7, verse 9, blessed are the peacemakers. They will be called the sons of God. Jesus is now describing a genuine disciple as somebody, because they're at peace with God, will bring peace in their relationships with everybody else. That's the picture he's giving you, that you will live at peace with people. You live at peace with your family. You live at peace with your friends. In fact, you'll live at peace with your enemies. Now think about your situation at home. Are you the peacemaker? That is, when you're at home, does everything go more peacefully than when you're not there? Or is it possible that when you go home, everything in the family gets a little bit more tense and World War III starts to break out? Do you actually bring peace in your family? Or does everything get a bit more tense when you're around? If you're really game, ask your mum and she will give you the correct answer. Jesus said, do you really want to bring peace? Is that the cry of your heart, that you want to forgive and accept others? Jesus says, if you're bringing the peace of God to those relationships around you, congratulations. The promise of Jesus in verse 9 is you are God's child. The last picture, picture 8, verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now think about this. If you're genuinely living as a flat-out disciple, if you're putting into action all the stuff that Jesus just talked about, if you're not pretending but you're standing up for Jesus at every opportunity, that might not give you acceptance by the cool crowd. In fact, the cool crowd might not want you at all. And Jesus is saying, are you prepared to even risk rejection by the cool crowd because you make a stand for me? Because if you make a stand for Jesus, you might get picked on. If you make a stand for Jesus, you might have fun made of you. You know how sometimes you ask your friends, you want to come along the Crossfire, you invite them on beach camp, and they just laugh at you and treat you like an idiot. Jesus says, are you prepared to stand for me that way? This Thursday morning, when you stand at your school flagpole and you pray publicly for your school as all your friends are arriving and walking past you, that might not bring you acceptance with everybody. Some years ago, Castle Hill High School, my son was involved. Some of the students who walked past the Christians who were standing out the front there threw stones at him. And Jesus is saying, are you prepared to risk that to be my disciple? You might be keeping yourself sexually for your marriage partner, and you might be treating your sexuality very carefully and not just flaunting it with anyone who'll have you, and your friends might look at you like there's something medically and psychologically wrong with you. And Jesus says, are you prepared to make that stand? Because I'll tell you why you will be persecuted if you're a genuine disciple. That's what they did to Jesus. When Jesus stood for the values of God, what did they do to him? They strung him up on a cross and put him to death. And Jesus says, if you're going to make a stand for me, hey, they persecuted me, they will persecute you as well. And Jesus says, Does that describe you? Are you prepared to risk rejection by the cool crowd because you make a stand for Jesus? And Jesus says, if that's true, congratulations. The kingdom of heaven is yours. We all want to be successful. Do you remember the definition of success that I suggested right at the beginning? Success means feeling good because you're achieving something good. I want you to check, what are you achieving at the moment? In your life now, what are you putting time and effort into? What are the things that you're striving harder than anything to make sure you get done? Here's the question you've got to work out. The stuff that you're actually achieving now, is it really worth achieving? Wouldn't it be terrible to get to the end of your life and look back at everything that you'd achieved and come to the conclusion that nothing was actually worth achieving? Wouldn't it be terrible to spend your life doing stuff that didn't matter? What really is worth achieving? I'll tell you what it is. Becoming the genuine disciple that God has designed you to be. That is really worth achieving. And I wonder tonight whether you're ready to put your heart and your soul into that. Is that the cry of your heart, that you want to be that genuine disciple? How do we do that? That's what we're going to look at each week as we discover the cry of our heart from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount.